This page is the front cover of Total 64 magazine, featuring Extreme G, GoldenEye 007, Mace, The Dark Age and Ganbar Gomon 5. It boasts free Extreme G stickers and a Lilac Wars tips book. There's a preview of futuristic racing in Extreme G, a full review of GoldenEye 007, a pre-play of Mace, The Dark Age, and Konami's Ganbare Gomon 5. Plus, there are reviews and first looks at titles like Tetrisphere, Lilac Wars, NBA Hangtime, Banjo-Kazooie, Bomberman, Mario Kart 64, and F1 Pole Position pre-play. It even asks if the cover book and stickers are missing, cheekily suggesting readers ask their newsagent. The next page features a full-page advertisement for Multi-Racing Championship, with the tagline Internal Combustion. It highlights the game's 8 customizable vehicles, 64-bit graphics, on- and off-road terrain, and alternative routes on every course. This page is a full-page advert for Multi-Racing Championship, a Nintendo 64 racing game. It emphasizes the high-octane, over-the-top nature of the game, with the driver screaming with excitement alongside in-game screenshots showcasing the racing action. The next page is the editorial page for Total 64 magazine. It welcomes readers to the ever-changing world of Total 64, mentioning new staff, computers, and even a new hair color for Nick. The page also introduces Alistair Felton as a new staff writer, and highlights the debut of the comic book character Nick Tendo, who will offer alternative solutions to big games, with his debut being a solution for GoldenEye 007. The page also features a comic strip with Nick Tendo escaping a laser trap in GoldenEye by strategically using a puddle of his own urine, an alternative solution. This page is a full-page advertisement for Acclaim's Extreme Egg on the Nintendo 64, featuring a bloke pulling a face to emphasize the game's speed. The tagline is, "Acceleration so fast it hurts. So why do it?" The next page is the contents section of Total 64, Volume 1, Issue 8. The reviews section features GoldenEye, touted as potentially the best game ever on the N64, followed by Ganbare Gomon 5, a mystical ninja RPG. Tetrisphere gets some love, hailed as a unique twist on a classic, and Lilac Wars makes an appearance, originally known as Star Fox 64. Finally, NBA Hangtime gets a mention for those who miss the arcade. There's also a competition to win GoldenEye on page 88. This page is the contents page. There's a first look section featuring Banjo and Kazooie, MK Mythologies, Bomberman, Silicon Valley, and Chameleon Twist. On the right, under pre-play, we have F1 Pole Position 64, and Mace, The Dark Age. There's also a section for W.I page Extreme G. Finally, Mario Kart 64 gets a tips section. The usual regulars are listed, including editorial, news, reviews, peripherals, and other features like back issues, cheat zone, and subscriptions. The next page dives into Rare's answer to Mario Kart 64, with a feature on Diddy Kong Racing. The article suggests it will be along the lines of Mario Kart 64, with adventure and exploration, like Super Mario 64. You'll race as Diddy Kong and 7 other characters through 23D courses. Rare's real-time dynamic animation technology makes everything look impressive. Besides Diddy Kong, you'll also see Banjo the Bear, Conker the Squirrel, and even Crash the Kremling, as well as new animal friends like Bumper the Badger, Tip-Tup the Turtle, and Pipsy the Mouse. Racers can choose karts, hovercrafts, or planes. Versus mode allows up to 4 players to compete. The game is Rumble Pack compatible and lets you save best times. The reviewer can't wait to get Diddy Kong Racing in the office, as it could replace Mario Kart as the all-night session favorite. The page includes screenshots, and release dates for other games are listed, including Banjo and Kazooie, Hexen and Mission Impossible for December, plus Blade and Barrel, Quake 64, Reverend Limit, Clay Fighter 63 1/3, and Extreme Egg for 4th quarter 97. A preview of Zelda 64, codenamed Zelda the Big Link, highlights its massive 256 megabit cartridge, improved link controls, a fairy companion, and horseback riding. Priced at around $100, it promises an immersive, potentially scary experience. Release is slated for Christmas in Japan, with a later European launch. The magazine also details us N64 release dates for various games throughout 1998, including Multi-Racing Championship, Mischief Makers, and Lamborghini 64 in September. Other upcoming titles include F1 Pole Position, 64, Jeopardy, and more. spanning across the months. A concern is raised regarding the European Commission's ruling allowing third-party N64 releases, potentially leading to a focus on quantity over quality. Finally, the article lists several titles slated for release in later months of 1998. This page kicks off with a splash, heralding Hybrid Heaven from Konami, touted as the N64's answer to Resident Evil, blending combat, exploration, and RPG elements. Screenshots showcase the game's early development. The other article is Have You Had Your Weetrix?, a 3D puzzle game from Z2 and Ocean, described as Tetris-like, with an isometric view involving water and evaporating balloons. The page then transitions into a 64-bit section, highlighting Japanese titles. Harukanaru Augusta. Masters 98 is a golf game compatible with the Rumble Pack. Sonobo Kids is a snowboarding game, while Snowspeeder 64 is another. Pro Baseball King 2 gets a mention, and Hashir Boku no Uma is a horse racing simulator. A lowdown segment lists upcoming games for the N64, categorized by release periods like Spring 98, January 98, February 98, March 98, and Second Quarter 98. Some games include Earthworm Jim 3, Nagano Winter Olympics, and Yoshi's Story. Finally, an upcoming section lists more games without specific release dates, with titles like Actua Golf, Buggy Boogie, Command & Conquer, and many more, speculating on releases from fall 1997 to spring 1999. There is also a small list of other titles such as SimCity 64, Space Circus, Turrican 64, and Ultra Soccer. The next page is a full-page advert for NFL Quarterback Club 98 by Acclaim, proclaiming it a full-impact sport with no room for losers. You either crush or get crushed. Simple as that. This page kicks off with a bit of Yoshi news, or rather, Yoshi's Story news. Seems Yoshi's Island got a name change, but fear not, it's still in development. The reviewer is pretty excited about the prospect of a 64-bit Yoshi adventure. Then we've got Deep Blue, discussing Virtual Chess 64. Titus is bringing us a chess game with 2D, 3D, and multiplayer modes, including a 3D cartoon battle mode. Sounds? Interesting. The reviewer can't quite wrap their head around that one either. Finally, there's a preview of MDK64. The game is set in the future, where you have to rescue the Earth from the Stream Riders from Hell. It promises to be very different from the PC and PlayStation versions, and will feature splendid 64-bit visuals. They are expecting more news soon. There's also a Japanese release dates section, listing games coming to the N64 in Japan. Highlights include Baku Bomberman in September, Yoshi's Story in November, and Legend of Zelda 64 slated for the fourth quarter of 97. This page features a stop-press update with a focus on racing games. First up is Lamborghini 64 enters the home straight, where they're showcasing new screenshots of the game after its less-than stellar reception at E3. Apparently it's been given an overhaul and is now running in the N64's Hires mode. They are hoping it will become one of the best racing games ever. Then there's What's the Frequency, Kenneth?, which dives into F-Zero screenshots and hype. The reviewer is excited about the world of Zero, where you can drive fast hover cars and marry a hot chick, as they state. The page also lists Australian release dates, including August's NBA Hangtime, September's Hexen, and Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, October's Doom 64, GoldenEye and Tetrisphere, November's Mischief Makers, MLB, featuring Ken Griffey Jr., and Robotron 64, and December's Banjo and Kazooie, and Duke Nukem 64. There is also a list of TBA release dates for games like Magic Century L-Tail, Tamagotchi 64, Toucan Road, Brave Spirits and Virtual Pro Wrestling, Ultra Battle Royale, February 1998's Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, March 1998's Mario Paint 64, Mother 3, Pocket Monster 64 and SimCity 64, Spring 98's Jungle Emperor Leo, and 1998's Banjo and Kazooie and F-Zero 64. This page features a rundown of upcoming N64 games. Quake 64's release is delayed to the first quarter of 98 to include a much-needed 4-player deathmatch option. They consider that without it, it would be at a serious disadvantage to GoldenEye and Duke Nukem 64. Dual Heroes is highlighted as a promising title from Hudson Soft, focusing on its virtual gamer concept where computer-controlled enemies have fixed patterns but different fighting styles. The game aims to make playing against the AI more fun and challenging, resembling a highly stylized Mighty Morphing Power Rangers. Robotron 64 has also been delayed again, leading to concerns that the game may not see the light of day, despite being announced a year prior. The developer, Player One, showcased the game at E3, but the absence of the publisher at its own stall raises concerns, but it may be in March or April 1998. The page also lists TBA titles such as MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero Yoshi Story, Clay Fighter 63 and a third, Dark Rift Extreme Egg 8-1 Pole Position 64 Mace, The Dark Age Mission Impossible, Multi-Racing Championship Rumble Pack Super Mario 64, World Tour, Body Harvest, Cruisin' World, Kirby's Air Ride, Quake 64, Conker's Quest, Zelda 64, Buggy Boogie, Castlevania 64, Zero 64, Attack, Biofreaks, Centipede X, Mortal Kombat 4, Mystical Ninja 64, Rebel Moon Revolution, Robotech, Crystal Dreams and Unreal. The next page is a full-page advertisement for Excitement Direct, a Nintendo specialist offering fast delivery. They sell Nintendo 64 consoles, games and accessories, with discounts available when buying multiple items and a guarantee on their machines. The advert lists a variety of N64 games and accessories, along with a mail-in order form. This page kicks off with, First Look, Stop Press, highlighting the upcoming game Banjo-Kazooie. It promises a sneak peek into the game's development, touting it as a potential Mario beta. Oh, they said the quiet part out loud. The article introduces Banjo, the bear, and Kazooie, described as a parrot, who team up in what the reviewer admits borrows more than a few ideas from our Italian chum. We also see Bomberman is making a welcome return to Nintendo. Kazooie apparently hangs out in Banjo's backpack, enabling them to pull off various moves and attacks, including a beak attack and a super jump using Kazooie's wings. Screenshots show in-game characters and environments, and even a very scary-looking mumbo-jumbo. This page continues the first look at Banjo-Kazooie, proclaiming its graphics are beyond anything Mario 64 has to offer. Quite a bold statement. It seems the reviewer is particularly impressed with the detailed backgrounds and the ability to transform into other creatures, like an ant, for exploration. The article also mentions a delay in the game's release due to Diddy Kong Racing being released, and jokes that Banjo will be making a cameo in that game. This page features a first look at MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero, diving into Sub-Zero's solo adventure. It's a beat-em-up that seems to break from the traditional one-on-one fighting formula of Mortal Kombat. The storyline involves Raiden hiding an amulet in China, and Scorpion aiming to steal it, causing Sub-Zero to intervene. There's mention of earning special moves, a feature intended to add variety. The reviewer is looking forward to getting their hands on the game. Orchestra. The next page is all about Bomberman 64, diving into what we can expect from the transition to 3D on the Nintendo 64. The article poses the question of whether Bomberman can hold on to his multiplayer crown amidst the growing number of games utilizing the N64's 4 controller ports. It seems the reviewer is curious about how the classic 2D character will translate into a full 3D world. They're hopeful that Hudson Soft will have some tricks up their sleeves to make the transition a success. There's also mention of a potential multitap facility, allowing up to 8, or possibly even 10, players to join in on the explosive fun. The one-player mode promises brain-teasing puzzles. This page provides a first look at the game Silicon Valley. The game's premise involves robot animals, or nanobots, dwelling in Silicon Valley, and the player controlling a small robot sent to a space station. The aim is to learn the characteristics of each nanobot to survive in different environments, like the Arctic, desert, and underwater. The reviewer mentions that DMA, the creators, have been working on it for a long time and trying to incorporate different styles of play. They find it hard to define the game, questioning if it's an adventure, strategy, or driving game. Silicon Valley isn't due for release until early next year, but the reviewer hopes it will be special when it arrives. The next page offers a first look at Chameleon Twist for the Nintendo 64. The article humorously asks if anyone has ever wondered what it would be like to be a wonky-eyed chameleon, scampering around and eating flies with a sticky tongue, adding, "No, neither have we." The game is described as unusual, highlighting the chameleon's long tongue as its main form of attack. This tongue can be used in 3 ways: whipping enemies, crushing them, or sucking them up and spitting them out. The chameleon can also straighten its tongue to vault across platforms. A gameplay element involves flicking the tongue out to grab nearby poles, pulling the chameleon to new areas. The reviewer notes, the game looks similar to Mario 64 graphically, but its unique attack mode sets it apart. The final game will feature a story mode and a 4-player split-screen battle mode. Chameleon Twist is slated for a November release in Japan. The page includes screenshots of the game, showcasing the chameleon's movements and some of the enemies. This page is a full-page advertisement for Extreme G, a futuristic racing game. It describes a dystopian future where Earth has become an uninhabitable wasteland, so humanity turns the planet into one massive racetrack. The advert features in-game screenshots of the futuristic bikes and tracks. Jahua. The next page is an article on Extreme G, a futuristic racing game that the reviewer thinks could be better than Wipeout. The reviewer describes the game's backstory. In the distant future, Earth is uninhabitable due to pollution, so humanity colonizes a satellite and turns Earth into a giant racetrack. The tracks are said to be insane, with twists, turns, corkscrews, and loops, and the graphics are a marked improvement over Wipeout. The article also mentions that the game takes place over 4 worlds, each containing 3 courses, with wild track designs. Screenshots of the game are also included. This page continues the preview of Extreme G, highlighting the impressive nighttime scenes and special effects achievable on the N64. The article describes the varied track designs, from mine shafts to underwater passages, and the 6 available bikes each equipped with fixed weapons. The eye is noted for being challenging, with opponents actively battling the player. The game offers 8 different viewpoints. The reviewer compares the game's soundtrack to Wipeout, noting Acclaim's efforts to achieve a similar musical quality. A power-up section details various weapons available in the game, such as flame exhaust, homing missiles, invincibility, and more. The next page features a working progress report of Extreme G, showing off various screenshots and concept art. It talks about the techno soundtrack potentially evolving into hip-hop or classical music. The game offers a variety of options like tournament, time trials and shoot-'em-up mode, where racers are replaced by drones. Multiplayer options include head-to-head racing, cup, battle mode, and flag game. The reviewer states, it could be as good as Mario Kart 64, especially the 4-player battle track. A release date is set for November, for both US and European versions. The 4-player mode is not up to speed yet, and the programmers will have to cut down on the sounds used and restrict the view for each player. The magazine crew are excited about the 4-player madness. The reviewer thinks Extreme G is looking at some competition from 064 and is very high on their most wanted list of N64 games this Christmas. This page is a preview of F1 Pole Position 64, where the reviewer notes, Human Grand Prix wasn't one of the best F1 games, but hopes the new name and tweaks for the Western release could improve it. The article features screenshots of the game in action, and references the classic arcade game, Pole Position. It mentions the innovative sit-down cabinet of the original arcade game, which was useful to rest your legs when you'd run out of money, suggesting that it was a hit with gamers and could be a success. The next page continues the preview of F1 Pole Position 64, expressing nostalgia for the original arcade game, and hoping the new version will improve upon the Japanese release. It mentions full F1 licensing as a key update. Screenshots of gameplay are featured, showing different camera angles and race scenarios. The reviewer jokes about being able to race from the safety of their armchair, and references Sega Rally as an example of a console-selling driving game. The driver select screen with Ajin M. Schumacher is also shown. Tivoyai. This page continues the F1 Pole Position 64 preview, highlighting improvements over the original, such as better graphics and frame rates. The reviewer jokes about silly names and made UP advertising hoardings, expressing hope for a more realistic edge. The page also mentions the 3 modes of play: World Grand Prix, Battle Mode, and Time Attack. It also notes that Ubisoft is handling the game conversion. Screenshots of various racing scenarios and the machine settings menu are featured too. The next page features a preview of F1 Pole Position 64. The reviewer seems pretty hyped about the game giving players the chance to race on 16 tracks featured in the Grand Prix. There are course select screens showing track layouts, commentary, and customization options. The reviewer reminisces about the terrible commentary in the original Human Grand Prix, hoping for a better experience this time round. They dream of Murray Walker doing the commentary, adding to the atmosphere. Release is penned for the US and Europe in October, and they note that the game is still getting its final touches. There's also a funny caption accompanying a screenshot. Schumacher watches in horror as Villeneuve screeches past him and off into the lead. What will his mum say when he goes home for tea tonight? This page is a preview of Mace, the Dark Age for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer seems pretty hopeful that this beat-em-up might finally compete with the fighting games on other consoles. The article includes screenshots of various characters and stages, highlighting the game's graphics and fighting mechanics. The reviewer mentions that there are 14 selectable fighters and one big boss. They also praise the character designs and animations, noting the variety in fighting styles between characters, including agile female characters and huge male characters. The Nintendo 64 is desperate for a beat-em-up and is hoping this will deliver the goods, especially after the letdown of Dark Rift. The next page continues the preview of Mace, the Dark Age. The reviewer comments on the game's combo system and character balance, noting that some characters, like Warmech, are stronger due to their size. They also praise the game's backgrounds, describing them as detailed and varied, including castles, palaces, and churches. The reviewer is impressed with the amount of work that's gone into them. This page continues the Mace, the Dark Age preview, diving into the game's bad guys, with character portraits of Al-Rashid, Demira, Dragon, Executioner, Hell Knight, Ichiro Koyasha, Deimos, Mordos, Ragdar, Takeshi and Xiaolong. The preview highlights the interactive stages, mentioning water hazards that drain energy and environmental dangers like spikes, acid, and pits. The Executioner's stage, a torture room with revolving spikes and swinging blades, gets a specific shout-out. The reviewer also touches on stage fatalities, drawing parallels to the Mortal Kombat series, and mentions that each character will have a special move to finish off opponents. There is also a side note that the reviewer has not managed to pull off a single fatality by accident. The reviewer praises the game's graphics, suggesting that Mace could be the best-looking beat-em-up. A screenshot shows Taria winning the round with a perfect score, and the humorous caption reads, "Gingerbeards are not my idea of perfect." This page continues the preview of Mace, the Dark Age, for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer notes the developer's efforts in character design and background detail, highlighting Midway's work on the game's visuals and stunning effects. The article compares Mace to fighting game titans like Tekken 2 and Virtua Fighter 3, acknowledging the high bar set by these titles. The reviewer mentions that to stand out beat-em-ups need to be special. The review mentions that Mace has to compete with other beat-em-ups on the Nintendo 64 that aren't so great. The article seems to suggest that Mace could be the beat-em-up that N64 owners are waiting for. This page introduces The Truth, a review section aiming to give honest opinions about games for the Nintendo 64. They explain their review philosophy, stating that not all games are worth attention and that their reviews will help guide readers towards worthwhile purchases. The page also introduces the picks of the bunch, a section highlighting the reviewer's top games, with GoldenEye leading the pack. The page has small photos of Chris Smooth Mark, Justin 007 Calvert, Nick Bodyshop Jones, Ali Japanese Things Felton and Ant Ironhead Rat Grace, each listing their top 5 games. Finally, the new Total 64 award is announced for games that surpass expectations, requiring a score of 95% or better to achieve this accolade. The grading system is then shown from 91,100%, with games that any N64 owner should have, down to 020%, which are games that shouldn't even be released. This page is a full-page advert for the Nintendo 64 game GoldenEye 007. It's designed as a top-secret file, complete with a photo of Pierce Brosnan as James Bond and a quality control surpassed stamp. It claims the game threatens national security and that you are James Bond, 007, licensed to kill. This page is a review for the Nintendo 64 game GoldenEye 007. The page showcases a screenshot of Valentin Zukovsky, with the caption, "Good evening, Mr. Bond. These are strange times," and another screenshot showing a distant view of a base. The layout includes the game's title in large gold text, and the page is decorated with graphics suggesting shattered glass and action elements like laser beams. This page is a review of GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer expresses his lifelong admiration for James Bond and excitement over playing as 007. It highlights the game's inspiration from the Bond film, detailing the plot which involves stopping an X-0 agent from using the GoldenEye satellite. The review praises the game's detailed graphics and familiar environments, and mentions Q's gadgets. The next page continues the GoldenEye 007 review, praising its realistic graphics for the time, particularly the absence of pop-up fog. It mentions the impressive explosions and details, like bullet holes that remain in surfaces, and the realistic sound effects, even down to the sound of a splash in a toilet. The AI is praised for being intelligent, with guards reacting to noises and investigating. The page also features a section titled, "The Man with the Golden Guns," showcasing some of the weapons available in the game, including the Walther PP7, DD-44, Dostave, Cougar Magnum, Phantom, Sniper Rifle, KF-7 Soviet, grenades and grenade launcher, with brief descriptions of their uses and strengths. This page continues the review of GoldenEye 007, highlighting its pinpoint accuracy with the sniper rifle. It praises the character animations and eye, noting the variety of ways soldiers react to being shot and die. The page also showcases some of the weapons available, such as the D5K Deutsche, RCP-90, automatic shotgun, golden gun, R33 assault rifle, mines, rocket launcher, and Moonraker laser, with descriptions of their unique traits and uses, especially in multiplayer mode. The next page dives into a review of GoldenEye 007, starting with the bold claim that nobody does it better. It spotlights the actors who've played James Bond, from Sean Connery to Justice Covert, each with a brief bio, including a jab at George Lazenby as the worst Bond ever. The page also highlights some of the game's characters, like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, Sean Bean as Alec Trevelyan, Alan Cummins as Boris Grushenko, Famke Janssen as Genia Onatop, Isabella Skorupko as Natalia Simonova, and Robbie Coltrane as Valentin Zukovsky. The reviewer praises GoldenEye's detailed texture mapping, noting that the faces of main characters are lifted from the film. They mention that Rare even used staff members' faces for the soldiers. Finally, the article praises the mission variety, proclaiming that GoldenEye is no mere Doom clone. This page presents a review of GoldenEye 007, declaring it 007, License to Kill. Ali's comment kicks things off, admitting initial skepticism turned into full-blown addiction after playing. He notes the game's perfectly crafted gameplay and the addictive multiplayer mode. Turndorkus. The review then highlights the single-player campaign, giving a brief walkthrough with screenshots of various levels, from stealthily taking down guards to bungee jumping off the dam. It casually mentions that playing on 0 agent difficulty ramps up the challenge significantly. The page also teases cheat options within GoldenEye 007, which are unlocked by completing objectives, not with controller codes. Few examples are shown, such as DK mode, which gives everyone huge heads and long arms, paintball mode, enemy rockets, and turbo mode, which makes Bond into a super-fast agent. This page continues the GoldenEye 007 review, diving into the impressive graphical detail of the satellite dish coming into view. The review highlights the multiplayer mode, stating it's possibly the best ever, even compared to office sessions of ISS Soccer and Mario Kart. It notes the variety in levels and weapon combinations, and the tactics stemming from these elements are praised. The paintball mode and the ability to play with up to 3 friends are mentioned. The page then details some of the multiplayer arenas, including Temple, Complex, Caves, Basement, Stacks, and Facility, describing each level's unique features and gameplay opportunities. Temple is a great level for novice agents to learn the tricks. Complex is one of the most intricate multiplayer levels, Caves being a confusing place for a firefight. Basement is the lower floor of the library, Stacks will let you compete in the upper level of the library, and Facility makes for a fast and furious battle. This page continues the GoldenEye 007 review, praising the graphics, sound and playability, awarding it an overall score of 98%. The reviewer highlights how the game surpasses expectations and offers a challenge, with attention to detail and graphics that are astounding. The review touches on minor gripes, such as mission briefings interrupting the single-player game, suggesting short cutscenes might be better. It also mentions the inability to jump or roll, which is a shame for a secret agent game. 4 multiplayer arenas are also detailed. Library, a large arena with multiple levels and secret passages. Archives, part of the GRU military archives converted into a training ground with exploding crates. Bunker, ideal for beginners. And cavern, subterranean caverns that spread across different locations. This page features a review of Ganbare Goemon 5, described as a welcome return for SNES hero Goemon, also known as Mystical Ninja. It highlights the game's bizarre Japanese humor, strange secret levels, and peculiar gameplay. The reviewer notes that it's hard to categorize the Goemon series, as it mixes elements of RPGs, beat-em-ups, and platformers. This 5th installment has moved with the times, and Goemon appears in full 3D. The reviewer states that it surpasses even Mario in the looks. There are some screenshots from the game. Hi-yi! The next page presents a review of Ganbare Goemon 5 for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer focuses on the game's intro, describing it as something special, noting that while the speech and text is in Japanese, it's immediately obvious. The narrative includes villagers shocked by the arrival of a huge spacecraft and a laser beam causing a curse on the townspeople. Goemon, the mystical ninja, is set to investigate. The reviewer claims that graphically, the game itself is not that far removed from the intro. Below this is an hour in the life of Goemon montage of screenshots. Overall, the reviewer suggests Goemon's world is unusual, and players can expect him to get up to all sorts in an hour of play. This page features a more in-depth look at Ganbare Goemon 5. Justin gives his comment on being shocked and disappointed that the game might not be released outside Japan, expressing his depression at the thought of never playing it in English despite it not being too text-heavy. He hopes for a translation and even suggests buying a Japanese dictionary just in case. The article highlights the town sections where the game is based. The player must talk to villagers and complete tasks to progress. On the first level, the task is to climb a mountain and talk to someone to receive a telescopic grab arm. The article mentions platforming skills are required. The sections bear a resemblance to Mario's first Nintendo 64 outing. The title features big bosses. If you manage to defeat the dragon boss, the young green-haired lass can summon him with her flute, but the dragon can only transport you to places you've already visited. The next page continues the review of Ganbare Goemon 5, with the tagline "Get Your Skates On." It includes screenshots showing gameplay and cutscenes, including Goemon riding a giant roller-skating robot and interior shots of the robot. Nick gives his comment, noting that the game might fill the void for Nintendo 64 fans looking for an RPG fix after Square's move to Sony and the delay of Zelda 64. He draws parallels to Mario 64, but highlights the RPG elements and surprisingly linear storyline. Nick also laments his inability to understand Japanese, but appreciates the cutscenes. He praises the graphics as stunning and the game as very Japanese. He hopes Konami translates it quickly for us and UK gamers to enjoy. Tinaza. The article discusses the game's bosses, mentioning a huge dragon that the player must climb and defeat. It also touches on the unpredictable nature of the game and the pleasant surprises in each level. A section titled Mario vs. Goemon acknowledges the inevitable comparisons between the two games, noting that Mario came first. The page ends with a screenshot and a caption stating, "The green goddess enters into battle with an evil foe." This page is a review of Ganbare Goemon 5. It features screenshots showcasing gameplay, including Goemon's sidekick admiring a pagoda and another hacking through dark woods. There's mention of backtracking on paths and controlling one of 4 characters, each with unique abilities. The reviewer notes that the game has a different feel to Mario, leaning more towards RPG elements. They praise the graphics as amazing, possibly the best on the N64, and the level design as huge and explorable. The sound is described as jingly and catchy. There's also a screenshot of a green-haired character, with a view of a farm. Encable. This page continues the review of Ganbare Goemon 5, with the reviewer expressing their love for the game despite its flaws. They highlight graphical glitches and invisible walls, but still find the graphics to be astonishing. The biggest issue is the Japanese text, which makes understanding the story difficult. The review notes, the sound effects are top-notch, with thudding sounds when hitting enemies and echoing in caves. Despite the language barrier, the reviewer finds the game enjoyable, and hopes for an English translation. Goemon is a 128 meg cart, and the import version could cost around £100. In the verdict section, the game receives a graphic score of 95, a sound score of 90, a playability score of 85, and an overall score of 89. This page features a review of Tetrisphere. The reviewer acknowledges the impact of the original Tetris, and introduces Tetrisphere as a twist on the classic. The page includes screenshots from the game and a cartoonish character, likely a representation of the game's theme. There's also a snippet explaining combos, which occur when 3 or more pieces are removed from the sphere simultaneously. The reviewer makes humorous claims about the origins of Tetris, suggesting it was a KGB experiment. The next page continues the review of Tetrisphere, delving into how the game actually works. The reviewer admits it took some time to figure it out, highlighting that the block shapes are the main similarity to the original Tetris. The core objective is destroying blocks to reach the central core by dropping like blocks, creating reactions, and clearing adjacent blocks. The page mentions columns, word Jetris, meme bean machine, and Puzzle Fighter as games that attempted to emulate the success of Tetris. It also points out that time limits become stricter as you progress, making it harder to find good drop locations. A combo system is explained to make the game more interesting, with scoring advantages. Ali's comment section adds that Tetrisphere might not initially feel like Tetris, but it's still enjoyable once you get the hang of it. It highlights the various modes available, including an 8-player tournament mode, and praises the music, suggesting you can keep it playing after finishing the game for a party, which is indeed a good recommendation. This page is the second part of the Tetrisphere review. You get to choose your robot, each with unique characteristics, although the reviewer couldn't tell the difference between them. There's Jack, Stomp, and Gyro. The page describes magic weapons you can get by achieving combos, like the Firecracker, Bundle of Dynamite, Electromagnet, Atom, and Bomb, and Raygun. There are various modes of play: Rescue, Hide and Seek, Puzzle, Time Trial, and Versus, CPU. The reviewer finds the Rescue mode easy initially, but it becomes frantic and addictive later. It highlights the puzzle and 2-player modes. Drukids. The next page continues the Tetrisphere review, showing off different bots like Turbine, Wheels, Gear, and Rocket, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. The reviewer jokes that Rocket is so fast he couldn't even dry your hair. The review mentions a dark and moody atmosphere, thanks to an impressive soundtrack with genres ranging from acid funk hardcore breakbeat to ambient affects twin-style techno. The reviewer notes it as a difficult game to master but rewarding once you get into it. The page includes screenshots from the game and offers a verdict. Graphics get a 79, sound a 95, playability a 90, and an overall score of 84. There's also a nod to the original Tetris on Game Boy, calling it the game that started it all off. This page features a review of Lylat Wars, known as Star Fox 64 in other regions. It jokingly asks if the hype is justified. The reviewer reminisces about the original SNES Star Fox and the anticipation for this new release. Tsukishu. The review highlights the impressive visuals and gameplay, stating it's possibly the best-looking game on the N64. It mentions dogfights, boss battles, and small details like water ripples and laser burns, adding to the immersion. The gameplay is described as similar to the original Star Fox, but with added interactivity. A side panel with the comment of Justin is shown, which agrees that the game is great, and the English speech is well done. This page continues the Lylat Wars review, diving into gameplay depth. It highlights branching paths, 3-dimensional battle arenas, and intense dogfights. The review mentions the inclusion of a submarine and tank, adding variety. It's compared to Mario Kart Battle Mode for multiplayer fun, and graphics are considered amazing. The review concludes with a glowing recommendation, praising the graphics, sound, and playability, awarding it an overall score of 94/100. The next page features a review of NBA Hangtime for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the popular sport of basketball making its way to the console. Screenshots showcase gameplay elements, and it mentions stars in the game such as Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman. The review discusses the arcade origins of the NBA Jam series and its enduring popularity. This page delves into a review of NBA Hangtime for the Nintendo 64. It mentions that players can expect gravity-defying dunks and balls catching fire, and those expecting a serious simulation might be disappointed. Players can customize characters with unusual heads like pigs or aliens. The review highlights the Firestarter feature, involving impossible shots and dunks, plus characters jumping unrealistically high, along with Team Fire. Nick's comment reflects on NBA Jam's origins and questions Hangtime's presence on the N64, suggesting it might appeal to those who enjoy arcade-style games without much skill. In the end, he does not recommend a purchase. Brecha. The next page features a review of NBA Hangtime on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer, Justin, admits to initially writing off the NBA Jam series after experiencing total NBA on the PlayStation. However, he notes that NBA Hangtime is something else entirely, barely resembling actual basketball. Justin humorously suggests the game might appeal to fans of Pong or Wimbledon due to its repetitive gameplay. He mentions the On Fire feature, where players can catch fire and make spectacular plays for a short time. However, he laments that the game feels tired and dated, not living up to the potential of the N64, and feeling like a 16-bit game with bells and whistles. In the end, Justin can't see the point of it. Warrington also screenshots show gameplay and player selection, and a final comment indicates that there are secrets in the cartridge. This page features a review of NBA Hangtime on the Nintendo 64, and it seems the reviewer isn't overly impressed. The tagline, "Two heads are better than one," refers to the ability to customize players with different heads, including animals. The review highlights the bizarre nature of this feature, noting Midway's decision to let you change your head to that of a child or an alien. The reviewer points out that although each of the characters' names are also included, the commentators become very repetitive, and this particular one is no exception to the rule. The verdict isn't glowing, with scores of 61 for graphics, 75 for sound, due to mildly amusing commentary, and a dismal 42 for playability, with the reviewer suggesting the computer seems to play for you at times. Overall, NBA Hangtime, scores of 51. The page also includes a screenshot of some high-flying dunking action. It concludes that you should hope the player has some soft trainers when he lands. Kuntissime. The next page is a reviews roundup. Blast Corps gets an 89, praised for its action, puzzles and explosions, even though the reviewer was dubious at first. Dark Rift gets an 84, noted as potentially the best beat-em-up on the N64 so far, but still falling short of PlayStation and Saturn titles. Cruisin' USA scores a measly 59, described as a poor arcade conversion and a bad version of Outrun. Apparently it's sluggish with dire graphics and poor playability. Doom 64, on the other hand, earns a 92 initially, which slides to a current score of 85, with the reviewer saying he can now kiss his Mario 64 goodbye. This page features a reviews roundup of 3 games. First up is Doraemon, which received an issue 3 score of 69. The reviewer notes the difficulty in not comparing it to Mario 64, but appreciates its quirky platforming. They also acknowledge that while it has original ideas, they're overshadowed by what was left out. Next is FIFA 64, which scored 76 in issue 3, but now has a current score of 58. The reviewer admits to reducing their initial enthusiasm after seeing ISS Soccer 64, stating that Konami's game is superior. They clarify that FIFA 64 isn't a bad game, just not the best footy game ever made. Finally there's Go Troublemakers, with an issue 6 score of 43. The reviewer admits to not understanding it but liking it, describing the game as full of bright colors and a jelly rainbow of sponge fingers and cherries. It's noted to be cute, but the Japanese text might make it hard to follow, recommending waiting for an official release. The next page presents another batch of game reviews. First is Hexen 64, which earns a score of 63. The reviewer questions its appearance on the N64, comparing it unfavorably to Doom and Turok. They criticize its dated graphics, lack of innovation, and accuse it of being a poor PC port, while acknowledging its 4-player deathmatch mode as a positive. Next, Human Grand Prix receives mixed scores, 80 from issue 3, but a current score of 72. The reviewer found the game wanting. After playing forthcoming races at E3, they suggest it's comparable to Pit Stop 2 on the Commodore 64, and inferior to titles like Extreme G and Multi-Racing Championship. They express hope for improvements in the US/UK version, renaming it F1 Pole Position. International Superstar Soccer, ISS 64, scores a fantastic 97. The reviewer declares it the best footy game ever, superior to its contemporaries, especially EA's FIFA 64. They praise its graphics, animation, and overall gameplay, quoting Bill Shankly to emphasize its importance. Lastly, League Perfect Striker gets a score of 93. The reviewer jokes about the game's hilarious player animation after a bad foul. They praise its gameplay, swift passing, eccentric keeping, and scoring celebrations. They conclude it's a worthy addition to the footy sim genre and recommend purchasing it, even Premier League. This page is a roundup of 4 N64 game reviews from the magazine. Killer Instinct Gold gets a score of 69. The reviewer notes the game's speed and combo system, but finds the animation jerky and slow at times, questioning the N64's ability to handle it. Mario Kart 64 scores a 93. The reviewer acknowledges new tracks and improved graphics, but questions the point of a souped-up version of the original, suggesting buying a SNES instead. They admit it's fun and addictive, especially in multiplayer. King of Pro Baseball has an initial score of 91 from issue 2, now reduced to 82. The reviewer laments the difficulty of finding human opponents due to better games arriving, making the single-player mode frustrating. Finally, Mortal Kombat Trilogy receives a score of 78, reduced to 67. The reviewer feels it looks dated compared to newer titles, and offers little to separate it from its 16-bit predecessors. They admit to lowering the score because they overscored it against Killer Instinct Gold, which is considered better. The next page presents another roundup of N64 game reviews. First up is Multi-Racing Championship, a racing game, scoring a 67. The reviewer finds it a minor hit, better than Cruisin' USA, but likely to face tough competition from other racers like Lamborghini 64 and Top Gear Rally. Pilot Wings gets a 91, reduced from 95 in issue 1. It is considered a classic, but the reviewer mentions that most of the staff preferred the gameplay of Blast Corps, which influenced the score reduction. Shindu Mario 64 gets a 96. The review jokes about buying the game just for the rumble feature. Lastly, Shindu Wave Race 64 earns a 93. The reviewer finds the constant vibration from the rumble feature during gameplay distracting and annoying. This page presents more N64 game reviews. Star Fox 64 receives a glowing review, with a score of 96. The reviewer praises the updated graphics and the variety added by the tank, submarine, and open levels. The multiplayer option is a big win, although it could have benefited from a two-player split-screen option. But overall, if you liked the SNES version, you'll love this version. Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire isn't so lucky, scoring a 61 initially but dropping to 49. The reviewer states that it failed to deliver on most of the levels, and that most people were disappointed with it. St. Andrews Old Course Golf fares even worse, with an initial score of 58 plummeting to 42. The reviewer notes that the game has never left the shelf since its initial review, indicating serious issues. The Japanese text and irritating commentary don't help its cause. Finally, Super Mario 64 earns a stellar 96. The reviewer calls it one of the greatest video games ever, praising its 3D world, fluid animation, and addictive gameplay. This page is another roundup of N64 game reviews. First up is War Gods, receiving a score of 76. The reviewer is not impressed with this Mortal Kombat clone in 3D, stating that it feels dated and doesn't quite hack it anymore. Apparently it's only for die-hard fans of MK. Next, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter scores a solid 93. The reviewer, not typically a fan of the genre, admits that Turok has a lot going for it, praising the graphics, atmospheric sounds, and the satisfying ways to eliminate enemies. It's even considered a challenger to Doom 64 in playability. Finally, Wave Race earns an impressive 96. The reviewer describes it as an extremely playable and original piece of software, with the only missing element being a Pamela Anderson lookalike to rescue you when you fall off. The next page features more N64 game reviews, starting with Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, which gets a mixed reception. Issue 2 scored it a whopping 90, while the current score is a more modest 82. The reviewer admits it's the best ice hockey game on the market, but ultimately, it's still just ice hockey, and apparently shallow. Then we have Wonder Project J2, scoring a somewhat disappointing 69. The reviewer was excited about playing with a young Japanese girl, but was immediately put off by the fact everyone speaks Japanese. Advice: learn Japanese first, or you will be stuck on the first screen. This page is an overview of N64 peripherals, specifically looking at third-party controllers. First up are the official colored pads, which are just the standard N64 controllers, in snazzy colors like red, blue, green and yellow. The reviewer can't decide which color is best, stating they are all good and cost the same as the gray ones. They are recommended for brightening up your life, and are especially good for Mario 64, Turok, and Blast Corps. Apparently there aren't any games that they are particularly bad for. Next we have the Shark Stick, a larger arcade-style controller. The reviewer jokes about the inclusion of stick and cigarette burns for added authenticity. They mention the stick is identical to the ones you'd find in arcades, and is great for beat-em-ups, but it's not as good as the official pad for analog control. Overall, they say it is as good as any other arcade controller, but that's not saying much. It's good for Killer Instinct Gold and MK Trilogy, but bad for Mario 64, Wave Race 64, and GoldenEye. This page features a look at third-party N64 controllers. Warrington also has many. First is the Interact SuperPad 64 Plus, which goes for a PlayStation-type design with two handles, and the analog stick next to the D-pad. While this avoids swapping grips, it makes the analog stick awkward to use, asking, why change the design? It's especially bad for Turok and Mario 64. Next is the Interact SharkPad Pro, which has a clear case, and is considered stylish. The design is similar to the official pad with the analog in the center. It's comfortable, and features a gimmick where you can change the color of the plastic underneath the auto-fire buttons. The analog stick is more rigid, and is good for Wave Race and ISS, but stiff for Lilac Wars. Finally, there's the Interact Shark Pad Pro 2, a radical redesign that chops off the handles and extends the center. This means you hold the pad rather than it sitting in your hands. The analog is taller, making it more difficult to use, but the shoulder buttons are more responsive. It's good for making your thumb ache, and bad for sweaty hands. Warrant. The next page begins a letters section called The Firing Line, sponsored by Fire International, makers of Blaze video game accessories. Dominic Tonkin from Australia writes to praise the magazine and their reviews of the games Super Mario, Mario Kart 64, Wave Race, Blastcore, Turok, and International Superstar Soccer. Tony Hall from Emsworth writes to say he bought a Nintendo 64 and is pleased with the graphics and sound quality, but feels the games are too similar to their SNES counterparts and expensive, asking if there will be any future price reductions. They also hope Super Tennis 64 will be released. Warranty. Carlos Berti from London asks if NBA Hangtime was reviewed, and why Star Fox is slipping in the charts. Also what the 64DD add-on will mean for game costs, and if the 64DD will run CDs at different speeds like PlayStation and PCS. They ask how Star Fox 64 compares to Mario Kart 64 in 4-player mode. The responses claim the SNES games are superior on the N64, and that there are no rumors of a Super Tennis 64. NBA Hangtime is in the office but hasn't been reviewed yet. This page features letters from readers. One chap is desperate for an N64, saying he'd dance naked in the street for one, and is also hyped for Donkey Kong Country. The response confirms a Donkey Kong Country game is coming, but potentially only for the 64DDD. Another reader asks about PC ports, tennis games, and the N64DD, while another reader wants to know about releases, prices and value for the 64DD. The truth is that PC ports aren't planned, there are no tennis games promised, and the 64DD is hardware, not software, and its UK release is late in 1998, although it is due in Japan at the beginning of next year. A reader writes about a story involving the theft of his PlayStation and games, only to buy an N64, with the insurance money claiming it is better. They even won Star Letter of the Month. Ha ha ha. This page is a letters section, where readers write in with questions and comments. One reader asks about a possible Luigi cheat in Mario 64, when NFL Quarterback Club is coming to the UK, if American games work with a converter on British consoles, the UK name for Star Fox 64, a Mario Kart 64 time display glitch, and a trick in Mario Kart. The replies debunk the Luigi rumor, give a vague NFL release timeframe, address the color issue with converters, reveal Star Fox 64 will be renamed Lilac Wars, and offer advice on the Mario Kart shortcut. Another reader writes about their positive experience with Total 64, asking about Wave Race 64, and subscription availability in Australia. The replies address the late magazine delivery and the Wave Race 64 audio. Another reader recounts buying an N64, and praises Shadows of the Empire. The replies address the opinions on Shadows of the Empire, and FIFA 64. There is a section Hot, which asks readers to submit letters covering topics like Mario 64. Part 2, add-ons, and what they would like to see in Total 64. There is also Cold as Ice, for letters about the 64DD, console wars, and N64 price drops. The next page features reader-submitted artwork for a Picks Win Prizes section, a showcase for creative gamers. One reader wrote in about a Mario Kart 64 glitch that is causing the game to freeze. The editors suggest the cartridge may be at fault. The winning artist, Gary Irvin, receives a year's subscription, and a general invitation to submit artwork is extended, advising entrants to include their details and send entries in large envelopes. Several pieces of artwork are displayed, depicting characters from Star Fox, Earthworm Jim and other Nintendo games. There is also a picture of Mario holding an advert for a free Star Fox game. Jeshawi. This page is the letters section from Total 64 magazine. One reader is unhappy with the Shadows of the Empire review, and questions the variety of N64 controllers. Total 64 defends the review, noting it didn't do the game license justice. They also explain the controller variety stems from different companies making peripherals. Another reader claims to have run over Sonic the Hedgehog and is seeking help from Sega. Total 64 jokes that Sega is on his tail, and he should clean out his boot. A third reader asks about buying us games and controllers, future game releases, and the 64DD. Total 64 advises that most US games will work with a converter, but some might be in black and white. Controllers are universal. They suggest Lilat Wars, GoldenEye, or Blastcore, and the 64DD is unlikely to be released soon. Another reader writes in about their Japanese N64 and converter issues. They also suggest adding a column for part exchange values and a top 10 buys list. Total 64 acknowledges import problems and says to go to a local electrical store for an adapter, and they also note that the top 10 buys idea is difficult due to different tastes. The next page presents the high scores for various tracks in Top Karting, seemingly a record submission from readers. Tracks such as Luigi Raceway, Banshee Boardwalk, and Rainbow Road are listed, with the best times submitted by players like Ricky Pearson, Jason King, and Nick Jones. There's a Foxy Scores section with point values for Corneria, Meteo, Sector Y, and other levels. Finally, there is a call for submissions of your own scores, and a reminder to send in a photo to prove that you're not making up numbers at random, as well as a photo of yourself so you can get in the magazine. This page showcases a magazine cover featuring the games Blade Runner and Tomb Raider 2. It's promoting an exclusive PC preview and demo for Blade Runner, as well as a free 16-page Tomb Raider 2 supplement with the issue. The cover includes an image of Lara Croft in glasses, set against a city backdrop to imply it's for die-hard PC gamers. This page is a full-page advert for Ultimate PC Magazine. It boasts 164 pages of PC news, previews and reviews, plus a demo CD, all for the princely sum of £3.50. The magazine goes on sale September 30th. It also includes a reservation form to order a copy from your local newsagent. The next page is a feature titled Player It So, focusing on SNES and N64 games. The writer reminisces about classic SNES and NES titles and Nintendo's approach to updating them for the N64, noting that some classic games have been overlooked for the N64. The article then dives into Super Tennis, a SNES game the reviewer remembers fondly. They suggest potential improvements for an N64 update, like enhanced graphics, 3D courts with dynamic camera angles, and zoomed-in replays of winning shots. The writer also envisions using the N64's analog stick for precise ball control and the joypad's extra buttons for various shot types, alongside a run button for added reach. The page features screenshots from the Super Tennis SNES game, Warrington Naucus. This page continues the feature focusing on SNES and N64 games, asking, before? Me more. It discusses the potential for updated versions of classic games on the N64, namely Stunt Race FX. The reviewer suggests improved graphics, similar to Star Fox 64, and the addition of a 4-player battle mode. Then the review focuses on Axelay, the shoot-'em-up for the SNES, and how the N64 would be a good fit to bring it to life again. The page includes screenshots from Axelay and a photograph of a man in front of a game, with comical eyes added. The next page kicks off with a 64 feature, looking at SNES games that could be revisited on the N64. First up is Unarily, praised for its originality and addictive gameplay. The reviewer imagines how the N64's power could enhance the experience, with better control using the analog stick and rumble pack support. They even dream of 64DD compatibility for new tracks and vehicles. Next, it's Super Probotector, Contra 3, a Konami run-and-gun classic. The reviewer fondly remembers its top-down sections and impressive bosses. They propose an N64 version with enhanced weapons and more complex level design, including hidden routes. They end by hoping Konami gives Probotector a new lease on life on the N64. The page features screenshots from both games, along with a picture of the Super Nintendo console itself. There's also a humorous caption accompanying a Contra screenshot. Just look at those boys go, they've got big guns and fat necks, they want some blood. This page is a continuation of the previous 64 feature, still daydreaming about SNES games getting the N64 treatment. This time, the spotlight is on Super Punch-Out, with the reviewer feeling nostalgic for the boxing game and suggesting ways to expand upon it on the N64. They suggest adding more playable characters, signature moves, and even a training mode that could affect the boxer's performance. The piece also includes a comparison between the SNES and N64, arguing that while the N64 has superior graphics, the SNES still holds its own in gameplay. Games like Mario World and Yoshi's Island are mentioned as examples of SNES classics that remain engaging. The reviewer also points out that Star Fox 64 is essentially a graphically enhanced version of Starwing on the SNES. Other games like Zelda 64, Yoshi's Story and Castlevania 64 are also name-dropped as exciting upcoming games. The page is decorated with screenshots from Super Punch-Out, as well as images of the SNES and N64 consoles. A humorous picture of a person with fake injuries and boxing gloves suggests that if Super Punch-Out doesn't get the N64 treatment, they might end up as a human punch bag. The next page features 64 Tip Zone, with cheats and shortcuts for Mario Kart 64. It gives tips for Luigi Raceway, Koopa Beach, and Kalimari Desert. Apparently some readers have discovered new shortcuts that are covered in this guide. Special thanks to Andrew Teague of Erindale. Australia is mentioned for these tips. This page brings us more Mario Kart 64 goodness, with Tips Zone 64. The page serves up some interesting exploits on Toad's Turnpike, Choco Mountain, and Frappe Snowland. These shortcuts, as the intro warns, require a bit of practice, so don't expect to master them on your first try. Apparently, skilled players can finish Frappe Snowland in under 20 seconds using these shortcuts. The next page carries on the Mario Kart 64 tips, specifically looking at Mario Raceway, Wario Stadium, and Royal Raceway. Each section provides a brief description of shortcuts you can pull off on each track. Mario Raceway details two variations of a shortcut that involves jumping over a wall using a speed boost. Wario Stadium features a jump over a mound that cuts out half of the track, and an additional jump back over the wall to land near the finish line. Royal Raceway outlines a jump you can perform off a ramp with 2 turbo boosts, which will send you soaring over the water to the other side of the bank. This page continues with Mario Kart 64 tips, moving on to Jungle Parkway, Yoshi Valley, and Rainbow Road. For Jungle Parkway, the tip involves using a mushroom to jump a fence near the beginning, skipping the winding ramp. Yoshi Valley suggests cutting out a hairpin corner by jumping over a section, advising a hard left upon landing to avoid falling off the cliff. Finally, Rainbow Road recommends turning sharply left and jumping at the initial drop to land on a lower part of the track, effectively shortening the race. This page appears to be a full-page advert featuring the TV show Sightings. It showcases a large red logo for the show, along with a landscape image featuring a UFO and text that reads, "It's out there, Hulka." The next page is a full-page advertisement for Madeira Games, boasting warranty machines in stock now for the Nintendo 64. They stock latest games such as Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye 007, Doom 64, and Star Fox 64, and also import controllers, memory cards, and RGB leads. They guarantee next-day delivery and accept MasterCard, Visa, and American Express. The bottom half of the page showcases tech systems. There is a list of UK Nintendo 64 games with prices, including Killer Instinct, Mario 64, and Pilot Wings, and also lists hardware and peripherals, such as a Game Killer cheat compilation, and joypad extension cables. There is a small section on official colored Nintendo 64 joypads, an FBI section to enclose a passport-sized photograph of yourself for £4.50. The right side of the page shows trade-ins available at Console Exchange. They accept PlayStation, Saturn, Nintendo 64, Mega Drive, and SNES, with swaps from £7 including P&P. It includes contact information for Console Exchange in Inverness. Tor. This page is a GoldenEye competition from Total 64 magazine. The top prize is a Nintendo 64 with a copy of GoldenEye, 4 joypads, and a widescreen GoldenEye video. The competition questions include how many different actors have played James Bond, and who or what is GoldenEye. Competitors are also asked to name 2 other rare games on the N64 and complete the tiebreaker. I would like to be James Bond because, with 10 words or less. Entries should be sent to GoldenEye Compo before the 5th of December. The next page is a back-issue advert for Total 64 magazine, showcasing 7 issues available for £4.95 each. The covers feature games like Super Mario 64, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, Doom 64, Mario Kart 64, Duke Nukem 64, Hexen 64, and Dark Rift. The advert includes a back-issues order form for readers to fill out, with spaces for name, address, postcode, phone number, credit card details, and so on. This page is the cheat zone, offering tips and cheats for a few N64 games. For Cruisin' USA, there are codes to access normally unavailable courses like Golden Gate Park, Indiana, and San Francisco, as well as ways to unlock the Jeep, police car, and school bus. There are also instructions for activating flashing lights, with a siren, and a nitro boost. Moving on to Dark Rift, it has codes to play as Sonork, Demetron and Sonork, and to see character endings for a load of characters: Aaron, Demonica, Demetron, Eve, Gore, Morphix, Nikki, Scarlet, Sonork, and Zenmuron. Lastly, for Doom 64, there's a collection of level codes for both skill level Be Gentle and skill level Bring It On difficulties. The next page is all about tips and tricks for more 64 games. First up is Doom 64, again, with even more level select codes, this time for skill level I Own Doom, and skill level Watch Me Die. There is also a super password that unlocks everything and makes the laser gun ultra powerful. Decodes. Next, there's Hexen 64 with cheat codes for invincibility, walking through walls, level select, killing all enemies, getting full health, and unlocking all keys. Killer Instinct Gold is next, with codes to access all bonus options and see the ending credits without actually finishing the game. You can even play as Gargos and battle on the Sky stage. Warrington Nemu, J-League/IS. Soccer has a code to unlock 2 new teams, and Big Head Players Mode. Finally, Super Mario 64 has a hat trick secret where you can find a bunch of extra hats and carry them around, plus instructions on how to control the ending camera during the Bowser sequence, assuming you have a second controller plugged in. This page is dedicated to more tips and tricks to get the most out of your favorite N64 games. Super Mario 64 gets a second helping, with instructions on how to carry the rabbit to other areas of the castle, and also a tip about turning butterflies into 1 UPS in certain courses. Mario Kart 64 is next, with tips on racing against course ghosts, performing a boost trick, racing on mirrored tracks and a speed burst at the start of the race. NBA Hangtime includes a list of player clones, which are accessed by entering the last name, and 0000 as the PIN number. Examples include Rodman, Pippen, and Webb. A list of hidden players is also available, some of which are considered a tad bizarre. The names are bold, and the PIN numbers are highlighted in yellow. There's also a guide to accessing secret play modes, which are entered on the Tonight's Matchup screen, using button combinations similar to Mortal Kombat codes. Cheat codes like baby-sized players, no music and unlimited turbo are featured. Finally, there is a guide to unlock random team select, and a way to change Rodman's hair color. The next page dives into more N64 tips and cheats. Pilotwings 64 boasts an excellent flying sim and guides you to find Birdman stars across Holiday Island, Crescent Island, Little States Island, and Arctic Island. Jumble Hopper gets a perfect 100 guide, showing you how to teleport near the end of the level. Shadows of the Empire has a challenge point guide, unlocking the Lebo Scanner, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, Outrider, invincibility with all weapons, and one persistence on the escape from Echo Base stage. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter provides cheat codes for pen and ink mode, disco mode, infinite lives, gallery, show credits, spirit mode, all weapons, and unlimited ammo. After entering one of the cheats, a new cheat menu option becomes available. Wave Race 64 lets you ride a dolphin using a specific stunt mode and dolphin park combination. There are instructions on unlocking the reverse tracks. Also a massive scores trick involving pausing at the right moment. It also has a trick for using the same racer in 2-player mode. The guide features instructions on performing double flip, helicopter, helicopter into a flip, and triple flip stunts. Also a guide for dolphin tricks, and speed burst. This page is a cover page from Total 64 magazine promoting subscriptions. It highlights the magazine's in-depth reviews, featuring games like GoldenEye 007 and Mario Kart 64. You can subscribe and get 12 copies for the price of 9. Plus, they offer tips and solutions for the games. The next page is a subscription form for Total 64 magazine. It offers options to subscribe for £35 in the UK or £45 in Europe, with payment methods including cheque, postal order, Visa, and Access. It also prompts for details like name, address, telephone, and desired starting issue. This page is a full-page advertisement for the Pocketbook of Nintendo 64 Hints and Tips, Volume 1 from Rapide Publishing. It features 10 games, including Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, Super Mario 64, and Wave Race. The ad highlights secrets, strategies, and solutions for the biggest Nintendo 64 games, with a coupon for ordering the book. It also includes a book order hotline for credit card orders. Gimmets. The next page is a next month teaser, showcasing what's coming up in the next issue. Highlights include a full review of Mace, The Dark Age, a pre-play of Extreme G, which they speculate could be better than Wipeout 2097, bold claim, a pre-play of NFL Quarterback Club, and a first look at Diddy Kong's Racing, which they describe as a Mario Kart-style game that's a surprise package for Christmas. The ECTS show report also features in the next issue, Ju. This page is the sign-off page of Total 64. The answer to life, the universe, and everything is apparently GoldenEye 007. The page suggests ditching jeans for a dinner suit and buying a BMW Z3 because GoldenEye 007 has arrived. The writer jokes about needing a break from the world of the N64, but then says the arrival of James Bond means there is no more time for real life. They mention going to the ECTS show in Wembley, but all they really wanted was to lock themselves away with a copy of GoldenEye for a long multiplayer session. The next page shouts, Club News, offering pre-release N64 games, a new shop opening in Upminster, and free gifts like a virtual pet Edge magazine and a cheat book with full membership for just £6. To join, you just phone a number or post the order form below. Choose your free gift. Jatsi Korgay. The page then goes on to advertise a range of N64 games, with free memory cards, highlighting titles like Blast Corps, FIFA Soccer, and GoldenEye. There's also a section for Game Boy and Super NES games, mentioning classics, such as Donkey Kong Country. They sell genuine UK products, advertising a Nintendo 64 console from £139.99 and tempting 0% finance deals for big bundles. N64 accessories like rumble packs and controllers are featured, alongside memory cards and leads. Finally, it provides contact details for Special Reserve and their various shops. This page is a full-page advert for the Nintendo 64 game Lylat Wars, also known as Star Fox 64. It highlights the special edition launch on October 10th, featuring characters like Fox McCloud, Slippy, Peppy, and Falco. The advert boasts the game's immersive experience, declaring it the fastest, most powerful games console on Earth, and includes the Rumble Pack for enhanced gameplay, which you can buy from Special Reserve as advertised on the previous page.